So is anybody new this year? Anybody new? Has anybody been doing this job for less than 3 years? Okay, good. Is anybody an aspiring teacher? Gonna go, good. I know a lot of people that did the para-ed route and then went into teaching. That way they didn't just enter in green because they already knew a lot of what they were doing. So this next slide, this is the resource Google Drive. If you can get on, you can have it. If you can't get on here, then just take a picture of this slide and then you will be able to access it later on. Once you access it, you will have all the links that I'm going to share today. And then if you missed my statement earlier, if you take a picture and then you go back and look at your pictures and you see that little bubble in the bottom, I think it's in the right corner with the lines in it, that's a script feature. You push on that and it will actually take anything that you've got. You can put it in an email, you can put it in a text, you can open the links, you can do all kinds of things with it. Is it working? Yeah, well, as long as you got a picture, it'll work when you leave. And that's okay, because you're not going to need handouts. I didn't, with your all's busy day just going from class to class, I didn't know if you'd want to have a bunch of stuff to carry, so I did everything digitally. All right, you ready? So my name is Patty Whitney. My email is here. You can email me at any time. I work for Kentucky ABRI, which is Kentucky's Academic and Behavioral Response to Intervention. What we do is I am a state support liaison, and if your district has a need, if they say, you know, we'd like to have a good speaker come in, you can contact me. If I don't know what you want, then I can also be a networking and find you someone. In my life, you know, I'm a person too. I'm a meemaw. These are my grandkids. I have dogs. I have a daughter that is has been dabbling in painting. And last year, one of her art paintings was hanging in the Capitol. It was pretty cool. And so lots of different, you know, everybody has so many different facets of their life. My personal world is here. My professional world, I do a lot of the conferences in Kentucky. Have you all ever been to the November conference? Anybody ever gone to that? It's down at the Galt House, but the link is here. And it's for the Exceptional Children's Conference. It's a great conference. It's the week before Thanksgiving, the weekend, and the Monday, Tuesday, right before Thanksgiving. But then again, you have to miss school, and we don't want to promote that. So, you know, it's sometimes people are close enough that they come on a Sunday, like a one-day rate, and then sometimes people come the rest of the week as well. These are all the different websites if you wanted to go and look and see things. On Kentucky ABRI, that's this one right here. If you have an NTI day, if you need something to do, you actually have, you know, KVEC has a lot of trainings on their website. So you could do trainings there. That is absolutely a perfect way to use an NTI day if you're not working with kids. Kentucky ABRI also has trainings that are called modules. And you can do these modules. It's like do a little lesson, about 10-minute video or less than that. Then you take a little quiz. Then you do another one, take a little quiz. At the end, you get this badge. So you earn a badge by doing a module. It's a great way to use an NTI day if you need something to do. You will also get the certificate for doing it so you can show that you were productive during that. That works out really good. Lots of just information. This strategic instruction model, these are the Kansas learning strategies. Some people know the SLANT learning strategy where you teach kids how to be engaged. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but that's one of the Kansas learning strategies. So lots of different ways to be involved. If you are a para-ed now and you want to thinking, you know, I could do this education thing for a while. There are so many facets in education that you can go into. I mean, who would have thought that I would have ended up working through the University of Louisville when I lived down in Southern Kentucky? It works because I'm a state support liaison, and what I do is I go to the different districts that ask for speakers or help or assistance with things that are going on with the SERTACs and the cooperatives. I go to those as well. So lots of good opportunities. So not just, you know, selling education, but it's a great field to be in because you can hop around and do so many different things. This is about the conference again, so I'm just going to skip over that one. And then what matters? In education, we're talking engagement today. What matters? Well, doing the simplest thing first does matter. So instruction matters. We have effectiveness, that matters, and adult behaviors matter. So with those three things, behavior change is a process. Teaching a student how to do something, a skill, that's a process. And if you don't have that teaching component, they're most likely not going to be able to do it this year or next. So you have to teach it. Effectiveness, do what's simple before you move on. Don't make it too complicated. You know, a lot of people have like these systems where they got to get stars and checks and you got to talk, you know, like 5 minutes and review everything, and keep it very, very simple. And then you've got adult behavior matters. You guys, the kids are mirror image of you. That's absolutely, if you were to walk away with something today, that would be a good thing to walk away with. Because if you had an awful morning, you got ready to go to work, you had a flat tire, you had to get somebody to pump it up a little bit, and then you go to work, and now you're worrying about if it's still going to be flat or have air when you leave, and you know, all that stuff. Things happen. You get ready to leave and the dog spills stuff all over the floor. I mean, whatever it may be. So when you get to school, kids are looking at your face. When they look at your face, they will see what kind of day it's going to be. And they will make it happen. I mean, if you take a breath and say, okay, it was a rough morning, let's have a good day, then they will have a good day. So they are a mirror image of whatever you come in with. So remember that. And if things are going south, reset. Take a break. They always say, smell the flower, blow the candle. So, and then if you could even teach kids that. Breathe in, breathe out. Let's start again. Let's see. Okay, so this one, this is actually, has anybody seen this Every Opportunity video? It's a really good video. It takes about 3 minutes. I'm going to go on and show it to you. This C acronym, S-E-E, sound of your voice, the expression, the eye contact that you give people. will make all the difference in the world. It works really well. This is one of those videos that would be something really good to take back with you and share with others. So it's interesting because if you think about it, everybody wants to be a hero. Teachers want to be a hero. They want their administrators to look at them and think, boy, this is the best class ever. And then you all want to be a hero because you want people to look at you and say, this is the best person ever. They are doing a fantastic job with these kids. And then administrators want to be a hero because they say, I want my superintendent to look at my school. I want my scores to be above and beyond, you know. And so everybody has expectations. Kids want to be that way too. They want you to look at them and say, you know, you're doing really, really good. Keep it up. So this is a struggle. It truly is. You can't let the struggle go. You got to keep it going, and you have to try really, really hard. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some things that actually will make a difference. So think about this. What stresses you out? When you are an adult, you drive. Sometimes you have elderly parents. You may have others in your households. You may have grandkids. You may have animals. You may have, you know, church families. You got all these things going on. Well, what we know from these circles of control, and this is from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Okay? What we know is we can control some things. We can influence some things. We can't control some of the items, and some of the items control us. So what I did, I had a real hard time remembering these circles of control. And if you stress about the things that are above your control, you can't do anything about it. All you can do is stress on it. So do this with me. The first one is I control. So you use the hand signal. I control. Okay, you do it. I control. Okay, so you have to get that in your head. What can you control? You can control your mood, your attitude. You can control how you appear. You can control your actions, your reactions. You can control if you work out, if you take a walk, if you eat healthy. That is all within your control. Now, I influence. So do that with me. I influence. One more time. I influence. Okay, now you can influence others. You do have the ability to do that. That's within your control. Is you can influence people. You can influence those that you work with. You can influence your students that you work with. You can even have an impact and influence their families by your actions. Okay? So you can influence things. You can stress over those two things because you have the ability to change those two things. Now, when it gets to things that you can't control, that's 2 C's. Can't control. Okay, do that one. Can't control. So some things you can't control. You can't control your schedules. You can't control your boss. You can't control actions of others. Some people say, oh, that kiddo is just awful, and control that. Sometimes you can't control those behaviors. You can influence them early on, but if you wait too late, sometimes the behavior goes off the charts. Can't control that. But you can influence it early on. Just don't miss the opportunity. So can't control. Don't stress over things you can't control. And controls me. Okay? So let's do that one. Controls me. Again, controls me. Okay, so some things control you. It's knowledge gained by others. It's the health conditions that you may have. Sometimes, you absolutely have an issue. And I guess now's a good time to talk about that. And I like to tell stories when I do things. And I was keeping my grandkids on spring break last March and April, that first week there. And I stepped off the blacktop. I immediately tore my Achilles tendon. And that's that tendon that runs in the back of your leg and up from your shoe all the way up. I knew I hurt it. I didn't fall. I sat down and said, take me to the hospital. It was, one of those very serious things. Freak accident. I couldn't control that because I'm an active person. Who would have thought? So from that point on, you have surgery. You can't touch your foot on the ground for 8 weeks. And it was absolutely a life-changing experience. But that day is when I changed my opinion on something. And I changed my opinion on independence and being a dependent. Because I did not want to be a dependent. I wanted to gain the ability to be an independent person. Because when you can't walk, when you can't touch your foot on the ground, you can't go up and down steps. You have lots and lots of changes in your world overnight. I mean, it was just like, geez, who would have thought? So my husband, he got online and he was going to buy one of these things to yank me up the stairs so I could get in and out of the house and do all this stuff. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. And so, to go up and down steps, I figured out how I could get on the ground, and I scooted down on my bottom and scooted up on my bottom and figured out how to get up the next level, and you work it out. So the whole thing with these kids that we're working with, we have to teach independence. Absolutely, 100%. Don't teach them to be a dependent forever. Independence. Some people have strengths, some people have weaknesses. Use the strengths, whatever those strengths may be, and teach that independence. It is so important. But that has really changed my whole presentation mode, because now it's all about this I can mode. So you're sitting next to somebody. I want you to just turn around, give them a high five, and say, I can. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you can, and you've got to have an I can personality. And you have to make sure that your kids have an I can personality. So persistence, determination, have patience. Sometimes it's not a overnight, I'm going to get it. Sometimes it takes a while. So, give it 4 months and I could drive again. I was absolutely, woo, got my freedom back. Yeah, yeah. So it's not an overnight thing, but you've got to have that I can. When you wake up in the morning, you set your goals. You say what you're going to do. You say, I can do this today. I can help Patty make it from this class to that class. You don't do it for them. You help them. You assist with making it happen. And then at the end of the night, when you lay your head down on that pillow, review your day. Today I did this. Tomorrow I'll do this. One day at a time, one step at a time. By the end of the school year, you will be amazed. And your stress is so much less. You'll be a much happier person. So this whole engagement thing, we got to get kids engaged. Well, we know that you guys are para-eds. We know that we work with different levels of kids, and some have more significant disabilities than others. So we have to take what we know and move forward from there. Engagement talks about the interest, the motivation, the active involvement. It's about this kid is going to be in, let's say, a class for 50 minutes with you. The student's going to be in a class all day with you. What are you going to do to make it through the day, to make it a good day? I mean, it's pretty much that simple. From point A to point B, what are you going to do from that point? And engagement, it's how they think and feel and act and behave, and it's how they make it through the day. So we figure out, well, so why does all this matter? Well, it matters because if you can teach kiddos at an early age how to be involved, then later on, they will be involved forever in school. They will remember the things you taught them. Okay, so raise the hands. How many people work at the elementary level? Okay, how many is in middle school or high school? Okay. When you are in the elementary, you are laying the groundwork for later on, for life. When you're in middle and high school, you have to almost be looked at as a mentor, and you are the parent while parents are home or working. You are the parent while the child's away from home, okay? So it's up to you to help them be successful. It's not, don't do it for them. Now, a lot of people think, para-ed, I've got these kids and I gotta make them pass all their classes, so I'm just gonna, okay, what's the next math question? You're gonna do it, and they say, here's the answer, write this down. Don't do it for them. That's not what I'm saying. You've gotta help them learn how to do whatever skill it is. And then you use all the tools in your toolbox to bridge that gap, to help them and make them learn. So then you think, well, the academic engagement, it's actually three ways. You can be behaviorally engaged, you can be emotionally engaged, or you can be cognitively engaged. So lots of different engagement. What we have to decide is how are we going to help these kids with the engagement. So what I did is I put just some different links on here that can help you. With the behavioral engagement, this is where a kiddo looks like they are doing what everybody else in the class is doing. They look the part of being a good student. If you look like a good student, people treat you differently. And if they treat you differently, you start to think, you know, I can do this. This is all within my ability. Now, when I was a kiddo, I would have been the ADHD poster child. I was absolutely all over everywhere. I remember one time, the teacher told us to use those little melter beads and put them in like a can lid top, and we were going to glue them in. And they wanted us to put our initials in there. Everybody else did one bead at a time. I just poured mine in the cup and said, I'm done. And then that was it. I mean, because I wasn't going to go back and do it again. But I didn't have real good instruction on exactly what I should have done. I was also that kiddo that did all the risk-taking behaviors at home. And, you know, my dad was a maintenance man. I mean, he wasn't prepared for me. I was a crazy child. And so I gave everybody a run for their money. I had very young parents, and they learned right along with me how to do things. You know, I did the crazy things like put a Superman towel around my neck and jump off something really high and thought I could fly. Well, it doesn't work very well. So, yeah. Yeah, that just doesn't work. Yeah, I got this great big scar on my side to prove it. So then my parents, you know, they were young, they didn't know, they're ready to throw up their hands. So what are we going to do with this kid? She can't keep her feet on the ground. So what'd they do? They signed me up for gymnastics. And I did gymnastics all the way through college. It kept me somewhat grounded, if you know what I mean, because then my feet could leave the ground, but I was safe. And I could practice, you know, until it was time to go to bed. then I was out of everybody's hair. So, but that's the kind of kiddo that I was. So I was an active kid. They took my activity level, made it my strength, and that shaped the rest of my life. So after that, I mean, it was pretty cool. I talk about education, and you can do so many things. Well, if you're in sports, you can also do things. You can judge, you can be referees, you can be a coach, you can own your own business and get people to come. I mean, it's amazing. So there's so many things that you can do. Just you've got to figure out which way you're headed and then help that student use their strengths to be very successful. Slant. This is to teach them how to look like a really good student. So I'm going to go to this one, and it's easier to see. So you sit up. You know, there's people that come in the room all the time to observe the classes, and they'll walk in and, you know, do those walkthroughs. It could be administrators, it could be central office people. They come through and they want to see people doing what they need to see them do, which is be a good kiddo. So what I did is I didn't just use an acronym, I taught sign language to go with it. And so if somebody walked in the class, I would and that meant sit up. This is lean in. A is activate your thinking. N is nod or note take. And T is track the talker. So I could do just a little symbol and everybody was just like, yeah, and they look so good. So things like that work really, really well. You can't just tell kids though, you got to teach it. You give them a little prompt, like show them how to make it happen, and then they can do it. Just talking to kids, just sitting there and watching them do their work and not doing anything, just kind of watching the time flash by, playing on your phone, that's not going to help. So you got to be actively involved. The better the kids look, the better you look. Now, I told you I go with Kentucky ABRI, I'm a state support liaison. So I go into districts and I help and assist and do whatever that people ask Kentucky ABRI to do. And so when I go in, the better the outcome, the better they look, the better I look. So it works really well. So if you get that mentality, you know, why not? Use it. This one talks about emotional engagement, and it talks about relationship building and tacit and explicit knowledge. I didn't know, I mean, I'm college educated. I didn't know what tacit knowledge was. So once I've read this book, I figured this out. Well, explicit knowledge is saying, I've got 3 blocks, I got 2 blocks, add them together, it makes how many? 5 blocks, right? That is explicit knowledge. Tacit knowledge is giving kids something that they can anchor to, something in their head that they will remember, and then they will be able to do this skill forever once they remember. So you tell a little story. Well, tacit knowledge. I've got 3 cats and 2 dogs. And do you know how many bowls I have to do at mealtime to feed all these animals? And then they're thinking 3 and 2, 5. That's right. And then you give them something that they can anchor it to because they can see it. They can see those little cats and they can see those 2 dogs. And then if you have a picture on your wall or something, you know, things that you show them. That works really well. So that's tacit knowledge. You can't just teach the facts. You've got to anchor it to something that kids can understand at whatever level. So this relationship building, you know, you always hear that relationships, it's like the #1 strategy. I mean, if you build a relationship with people, and I know this is a lot of sit and get, but feel free to ask or stop me at any time. I always teach that character is who you are when no one's watching. And I actually got that in a little, what are those Chinese things that you break open? Fortune cookie, yes. And I started using that because it's true. And so what I do with the really important things that I get that I want to make sure that I'm reminded of, and like I said, I'm a Meemaw and I got grandkids and they come to visit fairly often. I put everything where you open up your cabinets, it'll be on the inside of the cabinet door, like right there where the cups and stuff is and the plates. And so they open up a door and they'll see character is. And it's just something that helps people understand that character is who you are when no one's watching. And then I explain it. And so just being that person there for kids, fist bumping, you know, give different ways to show that you're there with them. Show different things, like go back to that tacit knowledge. Guess what? I got a new puppy yesterday. Show them a picture. And then people want to see that. One time, I was a behavior consultant for a district, and they had this kiddo that was absolutely giving everybody a run for their money. And I mean a run for their money. Okay, so we had a runner. And so I got in, I started talking with the student, and we made a little plan. And it was going to be to make rewards. And so many good days, I would give him a reward. Well, you know, some people, they gave pencils and they gave candy and they said this, that, and the other. Well, this kiddo was still running. Didn't help. I said, what would you do? And he knew I was really into animals. And so he said, Miss Whitney, he said, I've got a pet rabbit. I'd like you to see my rabbit. Okay, you do this for the 10 days or 25 days or however long you had to do it for. I said, and I'll call Grandma and I'll come over and see your rabbit. Behavior changed just like that, because the reward matched his interest and it worked. And so at that point, you don't just stop. I mean, I went and I saw the rabbit and I praised the effort. Always praise the effort. And then, you know, we set another reward. What are we going to do next? And then we went one step on. So that is really, really powerful. But you've got to make sure you know what the student likes to do. So you share some stuff you like to do, you find out what they like to do. And then you have something to talk about. This one, this Better Conversations, a lot of the communication comes from this book. And it talks about, you know, effective communication is one of the things that makes a school above and beyond. It makes a school great. And it's your communication with coworkers, your communication with students, with their families. Some people only call home when the students have been bad. Wouldn't it be cool if you write something and send it home on a Post-it? All you have to do is make sure you put the student's name, say something that you praise the effort. So say something that they did really well. Then you sign your name. Those things that you send home will be on the refrigerator for 1 year, because you made the effort to put the kiddo's name and your name and said something they did good. That goes absolutely a long ways, because if you can get the parents on your side, they talk about you in positive light. Then since they do that, the kiddo changes their view of school and of you working with you, and then everything is good. I mean, but you've got to build it, and it doesn't happen overnight, because some of these parents, they don't like school. They talk about school bad. Their kids come to school. They talk about school bad. They go home and say, you know what Miss Whitney did? She called that kid out, and it wasn't very nice. Then they'll start talking bad about me. So you've got to just kind of remember your table talk. Of course, people have to sit at the table to eat, but So this one talks about cognitive engagement. So this is, how do we get people involved? Well, we've got to make sure that we understand that we support independence and not dependence. So don't do the work for them. Try to get as much independence as you can. The productive struggle and the learning pit. These are two links with videos. They're short videos. They're about 6 or 7 minutes. What this will do is it talks about how you don't just all of a sudden learn how to do it. Has anybody ever fixed anything? I mean, like something that breaks and you've got to fix it. And you try and you work and you don't understand it, and you Google it, and then you go back to it, and so you keep on working at it. Well, that's the productive struggle, is you have to struggle until you are finished and you're successful, and then you can say, did it, I did it. That will make you a very smart person, because now you know how to do it. Next time it happens, you could even tell somebody else how to do it. Okay? So that's what we got to help the kiddos with, is the productive struggle. You let them struggle a little bit. Don't let them get so frustrated that they give up. So you've got to intervene early, but don't do it for them. Help them do the skill that you're teaching. So this growth mindset, this talks about praising the effort, not just that you did it. Good work, Patty, you got 100 on the test. Yay. Okay, so what you would do is you would praise the effort. All that trouble that you did to try to learn to spell those words paid off. How'd you remember how to do that? And then you start praising the effort. That will make a difference. So, and then you get into this behavior issue. Anybody ever worked with any kids with a behavior issue? And some behaviors are more serious than others. Yeah. Some, you always wear tennis shoes to school. I wore a dress once, yeah. And then I wore pants from then on out. Okay, so sometimes behavior does impact learning. And it not only impacts the students' learning, but it may impact others as well. And so when behavior impacts the learning, I'm not going to go over every slide in this slide deck, but you will have the information, and then you will have a handout also in the Google Drive that you can go back to. This is the escalation cycle. So behavior, usually it's like, great, you all do just fantastic. But if something makes you mad, you go up a little bit. If you don't get a resolution, you go up a little bit more. And then you can't figure it out, so you just throw up your hands and say, I quit, because you all know how to handle your behavior. I quit. And then you move on. So you climb this hill, and then you go on. So that's what we're talking about with the escalation cycle. Some of the students don't know how to handle their behavior, and they will take it out on you. Don't take it personally. It's not you. They could be asking for your help. Help me understand. Help me manage. And so then we got to figure out, what it is. Behavior happens for two reasons. They either try to get something or get out of something. It's one or the other. And so you have to kind of think through it and say, what is it that the student's needing? They got so frustrated. The earlier you intervene, you're going to make a little hill instead of a great big mountain of behavior where they peak at the top, and it's like either run or you duck or you put stuff up in front of your face or whatever it may be. So you got to intervene early is what I'm saying. So we've got to intervene early, look at your factors, your environmental factors. What is it? Do we need to change positions? Do I need to sit on the other side? I mean, there's so many small things that make a big difference. So this is the escalation model right here, okay? The goal is to make a little molehill out of a mountain. You can avoid, if you can get involved early on. Calm is where you're teaching students how to behave. You're teaching them how to do a skill. You're teaching them how to make adaptations. That's what you do when it's calm. The trigger is when people get really kind of frustrated and you can start to see it. You can hear it in their voice. And once you see that trigger, you got to act pretty quick because it could be a no way to stop it type of thing. So then the agitation is where they're starting to, they're starting to fidget, they're starting to pace, they're starting to pull at their hair, they're starting to pull at your hair, they're starting to do all those things. Acceleration, that's when you've lost the game. Back off, less talk. Peak, they can't hear you, no reason to talk. De-escalation, tell them where to go to calm down. And then recovery, take a breath. That's where we start to talk a little bit about coping and what we could do next time. And then we circle back to calm. That's where we teach. Next time when we get that excited, let's do this. This is a handout that's in the Google Drive. It tells you what to do at every level of the escalation. So just kind of in a nutshell, when you're calm, you can teach anything. This is where you teach skills. This is where you teach how to do, how to manage. When you are in this mode, you can't point your fingers and say, you do this and you do that and you do this. Kids are going to take offense to that and it's going to trigger them and then they go straight up. So you use open hands. Open hands works well. You either sit there or you can sit here. When you get that excited, there's a cool down back here. Okay? Don't point. Pointing does escalate behavior. So open palms works really well. This is where, we look at things, we problem solve, we make plans for the future. Today, this happened. Next time, we're going to take a breath, give them a code word so that they can say something to you. Guys, in one of my situations where I was working with a district, they made me Teacher of the Year. And the reason was because if somebody walked in, I used a code word, and that code word worked great because then all of a sudden the kid's like, okay, Miss Whitney, what do you want us to do? And it was like perfect. And so you just have to figure out what code will it be. Okay, guys, it's 11:17. We're actually not done till 11:30, so I'll let you out a little bit early, but hang with me just a little bit. Okay, so the trigger, this is where we're coming up a little bit. See these red ones? Calm, trigger, agitation, recovery. That's really the only time that you can be talking to students. The rest is managing students. And so if you're going to be intervening, you've got to do it very early on. This, we talk about, okay, I see that you're getting frustrated. Here's what we can do. Give me a code word so you can tell me in the future. And then I'll help you, but I can't do it for you, but I can help you. And then just make sure that you know the ability level of the student that you're working with, because you've got to match their ability level. If they can't do something, maybe they're in a wheelchair and they can't walk, you can't make them walk. It's not going to happen. But like with me, with my Achilles, I couldn't walk, but I could use a knee scooter. So that worked, okay? So you've got to make, whatever adaptations that you have to make. The agitation, this is where you see it happening. It's getting worse. And then you back off a little bit. Don't ever step forward. Back off. And then I always use my hands, open palms. Don't point, open palms. What can we do now? And I'll talk with my hands up front. So if I have to grab a pencil or whatever, I can. But if you step forward, you are considered the aggressor. So always take a step back. Acceleration, this is where, okay, so the kiddo is reached the point of no return. I'll give you a minute. I always taught turtle up, which is, cross your hands, put your head down, take a few minutes, set a timer, that works. Peak, this is where safety is your main concern because you've reached the point of no return. De-escalation, this is where people want to be by themselves. They don't want a bunch of talking. They just need to be by themselves. Tell them where they can sit. Make sure it's a risk-free environment. And then let students pull it together. And then sometimes you may have to walk and talk. That works well. Do you know that rhythm re-regulates the brain? So a rhythm, that's why some of these punching things works well. Where people flip things up and down works good. Walk works well. So rhythm re-regulates the brain. So if people are getting a little frustrated, things that they can do with rhythm. I always also, if you didn't have something in middle school, high school, just teach them to click their fingers together while they're sitting. That works. Don't do this, probably be annoying to people. Yeah, so, but fingers works. You can see some people where they shake their legs. That works too. The recovery period, that's where we're pulling it back together. We're going to get it. And then once they pull it back together, let's talk about what just happened. And then try to use that tacit knowledge and the, what was the other one? Explicit knowledge. Tacit and explicit knowledge. Give them the facts. Tell them what you do when you get frustrated. I can't say how you feel, how the kiddo feels, but I can say how I feel. And then when we're in the recovery, we debrief. Okay, so the red, this is where you can intervene. This is where you can talk. Up here, not so much. But you do have to make sure safety is your first priority. Okay, so when we get all the way down here, when we're teaching kiddos, they got to be in the mood to be taught. So you create that mood. Remember, they're mirror images of you. If you see things going south, take a deep breath, have the kiddo do it with you, regroup, and then go from there. So behavior modeling, that's what you're doing, is you are the one that people are going to be looking up to. One quick story, I always said when I was old and gray, I wish I'd known that I'd made a difference. Well, now I'm old and gray. And I was down in London, Kentucky at a White Castle, and a kiddo from up north was on the way down, and he was a man at this point. He said, "Miss Whitney?" I looked at this man and thought, who in the world? And he said, "Remember me? You taught me in middle school." And he said, "Because of you, I'm a foreman on an air conditioning crew." He said, "Because you didn't give up." And that's what everybody wants to hear. And they will. They'll come back to you. It's just the neatest thing when they do. And, I've had multiple kids that have come back, and it's just so cool to see that they're successful.